The Punch TV. Adolfo no mama makwa baba the Punch TV so make sure say any day di kan na dey hwe channel ya na che say obe subscribe dey ama no like no share we so abeja wadwenche e comment section ho enso e dey aka ho abusuafo say wa onim say the Punch TV dey ba na current stories ne political affairs bia yes the Punch TV dey dem ba akopɛ abusuafo say amle america say story bi flow so abebo for mama che say apai ama che say gentle ha the Punch ne abasa abusuafo mma yenko hwe story ne mra ye ba ye de mu nchiremu nyina ebebre.
But today we are particularly privileged to have with us one who knows his stuff. But we are going to be talking to a gentleman who has been Minister of Power before and currently is the Member of Parliament for Pru East, Dr. Kwabena Donkor. Sir, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you, sir.
There are reports all over the country of unreliable power supply. What do you think is happening?
Essentially, we are shedding power. And unfortunately, the managers of the sector, aided by the regulators, are unable to be truthful with us. On the 12th, for example, on the 12th of March, we were shedding 600 megawatts at peak and over 200 megawatts at off-peak. This is from the Systems Control Center. So we've been shedding power for the last couple of weeks, if not longer. And unfortunately, for the people running the sector and for government, PR, Ghanaians don't need to be told we are in load shedding. You don't need anyone to tell you that your lights are on when they are off. So what Ghanaians are asking for is a timetable, something to guide us so that when we are leaving the house, over the weekend, you will know how to make the preparations that you need to mitigate the effects of the load shedding. That is what we're asking for.
But why are we shedding the load in the first instance?
Largely because we have inadequate fuel supply. Largely because we have inadequate fuel supply, and load shedding is not a question of capacity today. It is a question of fuel supply. We have reasonable capacity, and I say reasonable because on some days we operate within the reserve margin in terms of available capacity. But the issue really for today is fuel. We have domestic gas, but our domestic gas is inadequate.
Please carry on. Don't worry at all.
Okay.
No, you can take your phone.
No. Our domestic gas is inadequate to meet our requirements.
Yeah. Please carry on.
Our domestic gas is inadequate to meet our requirements, and so it is important that we import some gas. We import gas from Nigeria. And then even in the context of our domestic gas, our gas assets are in the Western Corridor. And half of our generating assets are in the Eastern Corridor. So gas has to be carried from the west to the east. Unfortunately, West African Gas Pipeline was designed for flow from the east to the west. So we have to do a reverse flow on it. And the reverse flow costs money. The West African Gas Line Company charges us for the reverse flow function. And so that is the other challenge we have, because we don't have the liquidity to buy adequate gas from Nigeria or to pay for in what we have consumed. We don't also have the liquidity to pay timeously for the services rendered by the West African Gas Company in terms of the reverse flow.
So, when do you project that all of this is going to end? Is it ever going to end?
Yes and no. Yes, it will end when we confront the situation. When we stop playing around with the situation. When we stop burying our heads in the sand and confront that, look, essentially the power sector has a financial challenge. And how do we deal with it? The power sector is under recovering cost. And when any entity, you run a business here, if you are under recovering cost, you will hit the wall at some point. We are under recovering cost. The cost of operation is higher than the revenue it generates as of today. And that also has a number of ramifications in that we then have a liquidity challenge.
Why is the cost of recovery, so low? Why are we not recovering what we put into power generation? Especially given the fact that many people are complaining that the cost of electricity is too high.
The cost of electricity may be high in terms of our average incomes. If we look at it that way, yes. And that is also partly because the real economy is not growing. The Ghanaian economy in the last couple of years has only grown in nominal terms. In real terms, the economy has not grown much. That is one. Two, the macroeconomic management has left much to be desired. Most of the payables of the power sector are dollar denominated. The receivables are CD denominated. And when we so mismanage the macroeconomy, that today the dollar is equivalent to 13 cedis, then we have a challenge. Remember, in 2016, it was less than 4 cedis to $1. Today, we are $13. So the ripple effect of macroeconomic mismanagement, the ripple effect of poor fiscal and monetary policy impacts on the energy sector. Indeed, a former Minister of Energy, Dr. Joe Otiaje, now Professor Otiaje, once said the energy sector does not have an energy problem, we have a financial problem. So inadequate funding and financing is really at the bottom of our liquidity challenge. It was for this reason that the past government, when we had to engage the Millennium Challenge Corporation under the compact, agreed that the biggest challenge we have was the distribution sector, because the distribution sector was subsector was undercapitalized. Recently, the ECG managing director talked about having 600 or more of near obsolete overloaded transformers, of course, out of over 32,000. So it should be put in perspective. But the challenge then is, this challenge was seen. And it was for this reason that for over about $500 million was to be injected into the concession. Unfortunately, arising out of greed, we botched even the concessionaire arrangement. And so when you are running a business, and ECG in particular, in fact both ECG and NETCO are limited liability companies by Act 992. If you are running a business as you do, and you are undercapitalized, you are bleeding, and you need capital injection, the shareholder has the obligation to reinject capital. That we are not doing.
Because we simply don't have. We are broke.
We are, and
The country is bankrupt.
And part of the reason we are broke is that we set wrong priorities. I sincerely believe that we are not as broke as we put out. If we have money for a national cathedral, when we have over 50 cathedrals already in the country, not built by the state, by civil society, religious groups, that is our business, having a national cathedral. Part of the reason we are broke is also that decisions in this country are largely procurement driven and never efficiency driven. Once there is procurement and whatever arises out of procurement, we are okay. We move on to looking for the next procurement opportunity. We don't run businesses as businesses. And again, as I've stated before, and I've been lambasted for that, we are also intellectually lazy as a people. And therefore, we don't think through our decisions. If you take some of our policies, they are engineered for political outcomes, not managerial and sustainable outcomes. We want free this. We don't think through. We don't even cost what that free thing is going to cost. And where the resources, which are the other sacrifices we have to make, the church have to make for that free thing we so desire to be implemented. And so until I am one person who agrees with ECG that anybody consuming power must pay for it. And I was quite excited when Parliament, power to Parliament was cut off.
We will come to that. But for now, we're going to go on a short break. And when we come back, Dr. Kwabena Donko to tell us about the problem with the independent power producers, because they've been threatening, over the last couple of months, maybe over a year and so on. So what is the problem with them when we come back from break? Short break. Hello and welcome back to Talk Time. And we have in the studio Dr. Kwabena Donko, Member of Parliament for Pru East and former Minister of Power. Now, so we've been hearing of threats from the independent power producers. They've been threatening to shut down their plant. What is the problem?
Well, we have a problem with payment. Once ECG is not collecting enough, then there's a difficulty in meeting our commitments, in paying them timeously. When they threaten,
abusuafo story no na yakohwe de aban na chese ensem koso Ghana ha ensem koso krom ha chese de hian se obenya o data na be ba so abusuafo chese obetimi asre a obetimi adwa wani betimi agya na chese social media no so de so bia etimi eba so se de nkofo ka se digital no nyen blaso na eso enche me a me di dwumade ho chia me frame nana agman wo mi so na frame ny ja meje so na mama peace out
yama owi akwa baba Mansa Media College. Mansa Media College a school power ya che TV so any radio so dwumadie ya so ye e wo Kumase atonsu ba bia wo bia opese ba Mansa Media College na be hu dwumadie yedi ni hono a yentie dwumadia edino Amansan Media College.
Se usua bribi wo media mu ana opese ohunu bribi biara efa media ho enso eche kra
Amansan Media College e wo homa
ye wa achechefo a wa kwadiri yie wa adetwe mu na in studio ni ye newsroom de editwam wonsam twemu no ye twe biribi te se kasebo akenkan ni sinitwa ni bebura ekeka ho wo multimedia mu nso ye twe biribi te se sini mfoni asiesie mfoni nitwa ni bebura ekeka ho ye betumi nso aboa ama wo de na otwepe asunya biribi wo nkitahodie adwuma ahodo nyinaa mu esan se ye wo yankasa foni nti abwe biara ye ma ya adesuafo kwan ma okọ yode ya twerɛ won adesua dan mu no
ahwefo ehu ekame ese obi biara wo le bosomtwe ase enim abakosema efa nsuo yi ho menya abofra ketewa bi wa ha ono so se onim abakosema efa le bosomtwe ho
abusuafo ye mama kwaba eba Ghana Pages TV so emra so se the trending issues ne ekoso ewo abefo tentan fidie ni so ebesomo midin na naje wa akode
Amansan Media College. Ya ma de we hia bia wo nkotahudie mu.